Yo guys, Half Alpha back with another video, and in this video we're going to be covering Sneaky playing Ashe. In my opinion, Ashe is really good right now. She's a staple AD carry and always has been. She provides so much utility, and she's a good weapon to add to your champion pool. Before we look over how Sneaky plays Ashe and things we can pick up, I want to ask you guys to drop a like, follow, subscribe, it just really helps out. Now we're going to dive right in and look at one of the most important concepts that I believe on Ashe, which is spacing. Spacing on Ashe is so important more than other AD carries because she's so well known for kiting and does it really well with her passive. Spacing is dipping in and out of attack range of an enemy's damage. So, such as for an AD carry, Ashe wants to dip in and out of Jinx's range. Just as a side note, in this lane, spacing Thresh is much better, just because Jinx carries a lot more range with her rockets. It's easier to space the Thresh. Although as a whole, Ashe's ability to space is much better than other AD carries because of her passive. She is great into melee champs because she can kite them so well. To get better at spacing, I recommend using the range indicator. You can see that Gumi Yusi uses this a lot actually. I really think it helps with spacing, and you see a lot of Chinese and Korean pro players do this more. Another mistake I see low elo Ashe is doing is putting a point in Q second. This is wrong. Sneaky levels E second. This is in 90% of cases the best level 2 level up because spotting the enemy jungler is so valuable, especially early. Hawkshot is probably unironically Ashe's best spell. Great E usage will level up your Ashe gameplay so much. Unfortunately, in this VOD we can't see Sneaky's minimap, but we do hear him say he spotted the enemy jungler.
You want to stop?
Even here, you can see Ashe's E allows Sneaky to secure a kill after this completely botched dive. The next thing is W usage. W usage is also incredibly important on Ashe. The cooldown is quite long and the mana cost is high. Sneaky uses W and it's practically certain he will hit enemies.
My W, the longest cooldown in the world, but guaranteed hit. Super ideally my W hits both.
You're going to want to put 2 points in W level 3. Sneaky acknowledges his Q is practically useless early game. Your Q should be put a point in normally level 4 or rarely level 2 if you really want to kite people, but not normally.
Q level up? No, this shit's worthless.
The next thing is Sneaky gives insight on Crossmap Arrows. He basically says they're not really worth it if you can't 100 to 0 someone. If the ally doesn't have jungler assistance or isn't readily available to kill the enemy, it's not really worth it.
You know what's crazy is like Crossmap Arrows already like never killed anybody. Like normally mid laners and top laners can't just kill each other from full. It only be with like a jungler where you could. But now it's even worse, right? Like everyone's tankier. So now they definitely won't die.
Sneaky communicates with his support, the level 6 power spike, and instantly uses the power advantage in this fight as you can see. Ashe's level 6 is a big spike, and if used correctly can essentially win you 90% of level 6 fights. For builds, I'm actually going to tell you there's a really good video on Sneaky's YouTube channel, which I recommend watching for builds. His editor is like the GOAT for explanations and such like that, so I'd recommend watching that video if you want to know more about builds and such. However, I will go through a basic rundown. Some of the most popular builds include Immortal Shieldbow Rageblade. Another build that makes sense but isn't getting as much play is Blade of the Ruin King and Kraken Slayer. This gives you so much damage, it's kind of hard to play against, but it doesn't give you as much survivability as Immortal Shieldbow build does. Obviously, Ashe does really suit Blade of the Ruin King though, so putting it in her item slots is really basically good at any point in the game. She is a very flexible champ when it comes to builds, so it really is worth looking into some itemization around her. Knowing what items she's good with and picking them game to game is really important on this champ. I've seen builds ranging from Immortal Shieldbow Rageblade to Manamune Leandries. It all depends on the game and how you want to play the champ. Moving on to some team fighting. Now obviously when you're playing Ashe, your fantasy is enemies running into you and you kiting them back. Your kiting ability is unreal and you want to basically use this to your advantage in as many fights as you can. I'm not really going to cover basic concepts for team fighting as an ADC because I've already got a video on that. Basically hit closest target, hitting priority, staying safe, that kind of thing. You can watch that video. I'm going to cover some things that he does specifically on Ashe. So on Ashe specifically, your pick potential is really high and can be an amazing way to start fights. If you pick a target before a fight, it can obviously be game changing. This is really one of Ashe's strong points. It doesn't matter how far behind you are, your ult will always have value. And to a lesser extent, your other abilities, such as Hawkshot, your W and your passive. In this fight, we can look over how Sneaky plays and things to pick up on. First of all, we can see how he's poking with his W at a safe distance. He helps his Akshan when he goes extremely aggressive. Although Draven doesn't die, Senna kinda insta-kill Draven and the fight looks kinda doomed. Sneaky though absolutely space guys and deals so much damage with his build however, and wins the fight. Here we can see this is why kiting and spacing are so important. Ashe's maximum damage potential is much higher when you master these things. As a side note for kiting and spacing, in my opinion, skins for Ashe are important due to the smoothness of the attack animations. In my opinion, High Noon or Project are the only two non-clunky Ashe skins because they completely change her animations and don't just use the base animations. However, that's just my opinion and I'll end this ramble here about skins. So just a little bit of a recap of things we've actually covered in this video include spacing and kiting, when you want to pick Ashe, when to put points in your Q, your E usage, your W usage, using your ult as a pick tool and when to use it to cross map, some builds to consider and Ashe's flexibility with items, and finally we looked over a team fight of how Sneaky positions and reaches his maximum damage potential. I hope you enjoyed this Ashe basics rundown. I appreciate it if you subscribe. I'm really trying to hit that 1k subscriber mark. I appreciate all your views, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks, peace.